Thank you all for being here tonight. Commissioners, thank you for your time, staff. This is our January 18th, 2024 Bowling Green, Warren County Planning Commission, and we'll do the roll call first, and then I'll ask Mr. Moore to swear in our newest commissioner. Ben?
Ballinger,
Here.
Casada,
Here.
Sissel,
Here.
Drain,
Yes.
Gay,
Here.
Graham,
Here.
Ritchie,
Present.
Shaw,
Here.
Starks,
Here.
Vitale,
Here.
Volker,
Yes.
Chair Warren.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Moore, we have our commissioners, we have our newest commissioner here tonight, Megan Ballinger, and she is representing our Plum Springs district. So, Mr. Moore, if you would give her the oath of office.
Don't need to stand.
Thank you. Ms. Ballinger, if you're prepared to take the oath, if you'd please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and being faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully execute to the best of your ability the office of Planning Commissioner according to law? And do you further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, you, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with a deadly weapon within this state, nor out of it, nor have you sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have you acted as a second in carrying the challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offended, so help you God. If so, would you please answer, I do? I do. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service to this our Planning Commission. Commissioners, you have the minutes of our January the 4th meeting in your packet. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we call for a motion, please.
Motion may be approved.
Second.
Ballinger,
Abstain.
Casada,
Abstain.
Cassada, is that correct? Sorry.
You're right.
Sissel,
Abstain.
Drain,
Yes.
Gay,
Abstain.
Graham,
Yes.
Ritchie,
Abstain.
Shaw,
Yes.
Starks,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Volker,
Abstain.
Chair Warren.
Yes, sir. The motion, the minutes have been approved. We are now into Megan, our up-to-date calendar year 24 budget.
Yep, just got a quick budget update for you guys. So we are now halfway through this fiscal year. Easiest way to look to see if we're on track is to look at the year-to-date percent of budget column. We should be roughly 50%, and if you look on the first page, roughly we're at 57.5% of our total income, so we're a little over 50%, which is great. The only category that we're really falling behind in income is our transit planning funds, and as most of you guys remember, we usually get most of those funds towards the end of the year, so we're okay on that. Plus, that's a small line item for us anyway. If we continue to look down for personnel, we're at 48% of personnel. That's right where we want to be. On expenses, we want to be at 50% or less, and we're at 48, so that's great. If we flip over to the second page and look at our expenses there, our total office expenses were at 40.5%, MPO expenses were at 42.3%, contractual services were at 58.5%. Just want to point out with that, insurance is our big thing there. We make a one-time lump sum insurance payment at the very beginning of each fiscal year, so that's going to skew that just a little bit. If you were to take that out of there, we would be closer to our 50%. As far as travel, we're at 34.8%. Planning Commission expenses, 37.6%, and then our total expenditures, we're at 47.9%. That's great, exactly where we want to be at. If you skip down a little bit and look at our capital expenditures, you'll notice that we've only spent $1,500 in capital expenses so far this year. And then if you flip over to the last page, you'll see our operating account balance, which is $712,000, and then our surety account balance, which is $2.7 million. That's it, just a quick summary for you guys. Can I answer any questions?
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Moody?
Megan, just very quickly, am I looking at this correctly? Are construction fees up $100,000?
Construction fees, we are at $140,000 right now.
It says
That's
it's
what we have collected
112.
year-to-date.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had budgeted 125. I actually was talking to Jacob about that this morning. He, because I'm working on next fiscal year's budget, we think we've probably got around $20,000, $30,000 more that we're going to receive this fiscal year, so we're going to be way over budget for construction this year. The bad news about that is we only have about $30,000 worth of projects for next fiscal year that we see in the pipeline right now. So next fiscal year is probably going to be pretty tough as far as construction review fees.
But these are income fees this year, correct?
Yes,
All right, very good.
yeah,
Thank you.
yep.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Graham. Commissioners, any other questions for Megan?
I got one sort of a curiosity question. On
Sure.
the office line items, the televised meetings, we got $3,000 budgeted, but, year-to-date, actual is $450, so, what?
Yeah, so televised meetings, we really haven't had to pay for many of those. We have a new contract with Chris Bratton that will, but previously we were paying the city. The city's very sporadic about when they send those invoices out to us. We may have one or two more that pop up, but from here on out, we're going to be paying Chris Bratton for those. I do think the $3,000 is an accurate number under normal circumstances. And if I'm not mistaken, for January, I know that we've already paid Chris a check and mailed that out. That's not included in this as well. But I would say a few $100s a month is probably where we should be.
One other, if I may, just Ben, if you're hiding. One other thing I'll mention too, we have started televising our Board of Adjustment meetings as well, whereas previously we hadn't done that. So that will be an increase, added expense from normal, but we feel like that's something we need to do just to better serve the public and have better information out there.
Thank you, Ben. Commissioners, any other questions for Megan? So this information will be provided. It doesn't need a motion, just for information only. Thank you.
We do need a
Do we-
motion
do
to
we?
approve.
We
Yeah.
we do need a
Make
motion.
a motion.
Second.
Gabe,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Graham,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ritchie,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Starks,
Yes.
Ms. Vitale,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Volker,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ballinger,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cassidy,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Sissel,
Yes.
Ms. Drain,
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren.
Yes, sir. The motion is approved. Thank you, Megan, again, for all you do. Commissioners, you have in your packets tonight the letters of credit and performance bonds for information only. There are 5 of them to release these performance bonds.
We do need a motion on that one as well.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Gay,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Graham,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ritchie,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Starks,
Yes.
Ms. Vitale,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Volker,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ballinger, Mr. Cassada,
Yes.
Ms. Sissel,
Yes.
Ms. Drain,
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ben. All right, our subdivision and site development plans are in your packet. And Commissioners, are there any questions regarding those? And Ben, I'm 2 for 2 being wrong. Correct me. We do not need a motion for that.
You are correct on that.
All right.
Coming up.
Sir?
We were eventually going to get there, weren't we?
Yeah. We don't do the letters of performance bonds very often. So thank you very much. All right, any old business before we get into our public hearing tonight? We have no old business. Mr. Moore, if you would swear in our witnesses tonight.
Mr. Warren, I request that you order that the record tonight include all relevant statutory and regulatory provisions, the commission's entire file for each application, and the qualifications of each staff witness. Finally, I request that you administer those to those witnesses, please.
Y'all swear to tell the truth? Thank you. Thank you very much. Our first item tonight is 2024-01 DP KAH Properties LLC has filed an application to amend the general development plan conditions on a tract of land containing approximately 4.9 acres located at 245 Kelly Road. This property is zoned RM3 Townhouse Multifamily Residential with the general development plan. Ms. Hurt?
Thank you, Chair Warren. We had a pre-application meeting back in December for the proposed development on Kelly Road. As you mentioned, the current zoning is RM3. That was established back in 2002. The current land use is multifamily residential, and the future land use designation is high-density residential. The request this evening is for a development plan amendment, and the applicants are requesting an amendment to the maximum number of units to develop 16 additional units on the property. Those are shown on the concept plan in the white footprints here. There are 2 new buildings proposed, and then additional parking also shown in this white color there. In looking at the review criteria, we did find that the applicant complied with the majority of the review criteria that we assessed in the review process. We found that the proposal remains consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, and we found the proposal to be generally compatible with the surrounding area. If you're curious about the changes on page 3, those are shown in bold font. Most of those are housekeeping items, in addition to increasing the maximum number of units. And then there are also some new items, and those were proposed by the applicant in order to address compliance with the current comprehensive plan. We just had one item for your consideration on page 3 regarding open space, and we've just noted that there are no formal amenities proposed that would serve the residents of the development. There are currently no amenities, and they're not proposing to add any as a part of the amendment and the additional units that they're planning to build on the property. That is all I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Rachel, this is currently built out with the exception of the new proposed units?
Correct. It's currently built out. I can't remember the exact age of the development, but it's been there for quite some time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I noticed the maximum number of units was reduced to increased, I guess, to 64.
Yes, sir.
What was the logic in that, or is it because of the lot size?
The applicant may want to address that, but it's my understanding that they just realized that today there's actually additional room available to accommodate 2 more buildings and the parking that would go along with those buildings. But you may ask the applicant here in just a second.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Thank you very much, Rachel. Is the
Thank you.
applicant here or the representative?
Good evening, Chair Warren. Chris Davenport, 921 College Street, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
I'm here tonight with Kyle Shirley, who's the principal of KKH. I'll fill in a few gaps here, just real quick. I'm not sure when this was constructed, but it was last zoned in 2002. So the reason those developed conditions, then binding elements look a little different to you is because they're over 20 years old. So most of those revisions are to clear up things that we no longer include, like attaching to the sewer, because that's required anyways. Some of those things, as Rachel stated, we've added to try to bring some things that you normally see. So I'm just going to touch on those, and then I'm going to talk to Mr. Stark's question. So additional development conditions we have offered here include preservation of trees, the mitigation of sinkholes, and probably the two most poignant here, a singular ownership and management restriction, and an increase in the open space. So in this zoning classification, the open space minimum is 20%. In 2002, at that time, they were obligated to 25%. Even with the two new buildings, we have increased that to a minimum of 35% going forward. The reason, Mr. Starks, this applicant, my client, has requested to do this, frankly, is there's a demand for this. We've been kind of flooded with housing studies in this county. We're fortunate to have the demand, but that demand is there. So I see this as kind of making good use of property that's already zoned, property that's already developed, and helping meet that demand without going into new acreage and new areas and trying to rezone those areas.
Thank you.
Other than that, those are really the only thing. Other thing I'll say is even with the units, we are at a density of about 13 units an acre. I think that compares well with other developments in the area that are around 17 an acre. And then the last thing I'll say is this is a high-density residential flume area. So kind of the goal, as your staff report says, is in high density. We want to encourage high density to try to meet that demand in those areas that we've so designated. And so for those reasons, I think this should be a very well-received application, but I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioners, any other questions? Mr. Starks, your question answered?
It was.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions?
So Chris, do I understand correctly, these are 20-year-old structures currently?
I know it was rezoned in '02. It's been constructed since then. I can't tell you when the building permits were pulled. I haven't looked at that.
And is it your client's intent to build structures that are similar in?
Yeah, there's a condition there that to the extent possible to match design and materials of the existing structures.
Got it. And then will they have to get new drainage plans or does existing drainage plans stay in place? Or
I think that's probably a better question for staff. I would think that would be a part of the permitting, but I really don't know that question. Ben is saying yes at least.
So it would be part of the permit?
That's
Okay.
my understanding.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Any other questions for Mr. Davenport? Is there anyone in the audience tonight that has a question or opposition to this request? All right, hearing none, commissioners would call for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the proposed general development plan amendment, docket number 2024-01DP, based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. Proposed general development plan amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan, as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Further, I also find that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area of the property in question, and I request that the findings of fact and the recommendation include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Mr. Graham,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Starks,
Yes.
Ms. Vitale,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Volker,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Drain,
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren.
Yes, the motion is approved and it's Planning Commission final action. Our next item tonight is 2024.
Hold on, sorry, I skipped Mr. Gay. He made the motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Our next item tonight is 2024-01 Flume Farm Credit Mid-America FLCA applicant and J&P Balance Farms LLLP. The owners have filed an application for a future land use map amendment on a tract of land containing approximately 5 acres located southeast side of Nashville Road, approximately 668 feet southwest of GN Glasscock Road, from low-density residential to commercial. Amy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting for the project that you mentioned on December 11th of 2023. The current zoning is agriculture. The current land use is also agriculture, and the current future land use is low-density residential. And again, the applicants are proposing to amend the flume for the property located on Nashville Road from low-density residential to commercial. If the flume amendment is successful, the applicants would later like to file an application to rezone the same area from agriculture to general business in order to develop a financial institution on the property. And they did supply a site plan for you, and that can be found on page 7 of your packet. Looking down to the bottom of the page, staff found the proposed flume amendment to generally agree with LU 1.1.4 and compatible with the surrounding area. And the applicants have provided documentation regarding the sufficiency of the existing infrastructure and its ability to serve the proposed development. Therefore, the staff recommendation is approval, but pending any public hearing testimony and discussion. So that's all we have for staff report. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
I have a question.
Sure.
In your recommendation, you mentioned that you find this amendment generally in agreement with LU 1.1.4 because incompatible with surrounding areas. Is that because of the recent rezoning mainly?
It just meets all the criteria in the comprehensive plan with addressing, it's compatible with that land use category there for the comprehensive plan. It meets that. The LU 1.4 can be found on page just one moment.
Two.
Yes, it has everything outlined there with, in relation to the flume, with
Yeah,
that,
so it
the
says with
compatibility.
existing surrounding development, and so is it really the driving, is it that new development, the driving factor in terms of it being compatible?
Well, if you look at the future land use map here, to see. Yeah, it's not showing up real great there, is it? One more. There we go. So you can see that the surrounding areas are commercial, governmental development, and some high density. So that would generally be compatible with what they're proposing in the area.
I got my answer, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Sissel. Commissioners, any other questions for staff? All right, thank you very much. Is the applicant here or the representative, anything that you would like to add to this, Mr. Davenport?
Not really, Chair Warren. I am a little bit solo. Farm Credit's representatives are in Louisville and made the decision not to drive down today, given the weather. But I did instruct them if they're, obviously, we would have to come back on a zone change where I think a meaningful discussion regarding conditions would be had anyways.
Thank you very much. Wait a minute, before you sit down, Chris, commissioners, any questions for Mr. Davenport? Thank you very much, Mr. Balance. Thank you for being here tonight. All right, would call for a motion on this flume amendment, please. Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Ham. Is there any opposition in those chairs out there? All right, hearing none, would call for a motion, please. Thank you, Ham.
I make the motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment, docket number 2024-01 Flume, based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. The proposed flume amendment has met the criteria to amend the flume as outlined in LU 1.4 in the comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Did we get a second? I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr.
I'm
Rain.
sorry, I did not hear. Mr. Starks?
Yes.
Ms. Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Volker?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ballinger?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cassidy?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Sissel?
No.
Ms. Drain?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gay? Mr. Gay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Graham?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ritchie?
No, sir.
Ms. Shaw?
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren?
Yes. The motion is approved and goes as a planning commission final action. Our next item tonight is 2024-02 Flume. Monty Brown has filed an application.
That one has been postponed.
Postpone.
Okay. Postpone, excuse me. All right. Our next item tonight is the City County Planning Commission has filed an application to readopt and amend various elements of the subdivision regulations. Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, mostly these are a fairly simple subdivision regulation amendment. You had the summary in your packets. The main reason for the amendment is actually a good reason. We're getting a lot of good cooperation amongst all of our developments and developers, and the process is working really well. So we're able on the back end to offer another option for a bond for sidewalks. Currently, only a cash bond is accepted for a sidewalk-only bond or a conditional bond. We have been asked to look at and agree to now accept a letter of credit for that type, which gives a little bit of flexibility for developers and frees up more liquid cash to then hopefully go on and do the other developments. Still be subject to staff, and when I say staff in this case, I mean public works staff as well as our staff to make that decision. But we're happy to be able to bring this to you and have this flexibility put in the process. The rest of the amendments are really just a few minor cleanup things, and then changing language to reflect the ability to take this type of surety on a sidewalk bond. But that's really all I have. Be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Peterson?
And so, Ben, just for clarity, the sidewalk bond you're referring to is just in case, for some reason, someone didn't finish the sidewalk in a subdivision. Now, we have a letter of credit rather than a bond in order to go ahead and finish that.
Correct, yeah. So the way the development process happens, real simple, is when the subdivision's being built and we have all of the infrastructure, we have a big bond and a lot of money in place. Once they're released, as in somewhere tonight, a lot of times that's a conditional release, and the condition being that they've still got to finish the sidewalks as they build the houses. Currently, we only accept cash for that type of surety. As we get bigger and bigger subdivisions, that ends up being a greater amount of money. Now we would be able to take a letter of credit instead, which is covered by the bank, to then cover the remainder of those sidewalks. And then once those are done, we release that as well.
Great. All right,
So it just provides a little more flexibility.
Thank you.
Ben, has this been an issue in the past to some degree?
I would say
Yes.
sidewalks and getting projects finished overall has been a big issue, and then a lessening issue as we've gone along in the past. But I think we've, as I spoke earlier, we've gotten a lot more cooperation now. We've refined some of our processes. We're just at a different point, I think, on both sides, both the developer side, the planning commission side, where we're able to be more flexible now because of that cooperation. So I view it as a good thing and something we're happy to be able to do because of where we're at now versus where we were. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Starks. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Peterson? So do we need a motion?
Yes, we do need this will be a motion to amend the subdivision regulations, so we would need a motion to do that.
Second.
Christian, is that you?
Commissioner Gay,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ballinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Casada,
Yes.
Commissioner Sissel,
Yes.
Commissioner Drain,
Yes.
Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. The motion's approved. Planning Commission final action. Commissioners, you have, the next item tonight is our scheduled meeting dates for this year. And Ben, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, we just need a motion to approve it. Wasn't able to because we missed the last meeting, so this is just a
So
makeup
moved.
vote.
Second.
Motion, please.
So move.
It's been done.
I got it. Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ballinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Casada,
Yes.
Commissioner Sissel,
Yes.
Commissioner Drain,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. The meeting schedule for 2024 has been approved. We have one more item tonight, a personnel item, and we will go into closed session
Yeah.
to address that matter. So,
I just spoke with our counsel, and he said we could just do that by all saying aye. So if everybody votes to go into executive session, just signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.